Hello, so today I will be talking about network publics and what they mean within Sarah Florini's Beyond Hashtags. I will only briefly be introducing her first two chapters. First of all, to define network publics, we're actually going to go to another author and researcher on this topic, Dana Boyd. She defined a network as publics that are restructured by network technologies. So, they are simultaneously the space constructed through network technologies and also the imagined collective that comes out of those. That collective is that, intersection of people, technology, and practice. So it's the way how technology structures how people use these affordances and how they decide to connect with each other on social media. She uses it how they engage with these environments. Now, Florini kind of maps this trans-platform network and how affordances of these social networks lead to certain formations within networks that kind of reflect refracted publics, which it comes from Crystal Aberdeen's From Network Publics to Refracted Publics. Florini kind of has a common theme on not only these network publics form, but how digital activism was a result, but also like a major factor in the formation of network publics. Now, trans-platform, to define this, you just kind of have to break the word down. Trans means moving across, so this is across several platforms, but really it's across multiple mediums. Most of our data comes between like 2011 to 2016, so this was before it wasn't just social media, it was also website interactions as well. Florini has several individuals, but because we don't have a lot of time, she mostly starts with, this idea of like these Black podcasters making creating content for Black viewers and on, maybe Black culture subjects. The main ones were the Black Guy Who Tips, Nerdy Black Girls, Black Astronauts, and This Week in Blackness, which was hosted by Elon James White. He's a major important character within her story, especially in the first two chapters. He does a lot for forming this network, this like public network, but he kind of also almost causes the form of the refracted public networks. And you'll have to read her chapter and also go watch the full presentation on this to maybe understand that a bit more. But with naming these podcasters, she kind of established how they formed their own individual like podcasting networks, but then moved on to a networked public, which they called the Chitlin Circuit. And there they would share hosts, guests. They had very similar fan bases. And across the multimedia parts, the trans-platform network parts, they had live streaming, chat rooms, social media comments, and websites. And that's how they were able to share fan bases and connect with their fan bases. It wasn't just the content creators that were creating network, it was including their fan bases through stuff like that. And so moving to, social media comments, this allowed this network to spread even further. So in 2009 to 2013, the majority of users on Twitter were Black, and the trending topics were Black. Oh, let me correct myself. It wasn't the majority of users, the most interacted with. The majority were Black creators and Black posters. The trending topics were stuff regarding Black culture. So this formed the idea of Black Twitter, which was then a major utility of that Chitlin Circuit, that original public network. So, and the Chitlin Circuit came out, I think it was Elon James White came out and said, that Black Twitter is kind of what they stood for, which was creating a safe space for Black users of social media. And this wasn't just to talk about Black culture or race issues in media, but to have conversations on any topic, social, cultural, without having to mask the identity and conform to white norms, which is what was happening kind of in social media before this Black Twitter and this Chitlin Circuit and this overall public network emerged. So in 2012, there was the injustice of Trayvon Martin, who was an unarmed 16-year-old shot and killed by a neighborhood watchman, George Zimmerman. Sarah Florini brings this up because when Zimmerman initially claimed self-defense, Black Twitter was able to circulate a petition that got over 2 million signatures. When Zimmerman was acquitted, Twitter was the main tool used to organize protests under the Black Lives Matter, which is what led to the Black Lives Matter movement, which we've now seen in 2020 grown past Twitter to nearly every social media, most popular social media, such as TikTok and Instagram, where it really took hold. So that's overall kind of mostly covering chapter 1 of Sarah Florini's Beyond Hashtags, where he started with individual podcasters with kind of similar goals to an entire social media movement that was moving for social change. And I believe it was one of the most popular digital activism movements then, and I think still now with the newer Black Lives Matter movement. So that's kind of the idea of trans-platform networks and network publics. We started here, we connected, we grew across multiple mediums, and now we're all a community that can share and interact with each other. Chapter 2, Florini kind of goes into the way network publics, to me, kind of how they become refracted publics. And so this is kind of like the distinctions that network publics inform. So there are enclaves. She gives the exact definition. Hers and Dana Boyd's are forum of unpoliced intra-network conversation. This basically said these conversations were meant to remain private. It was all these people I found with it connected to each other, but this wasn't meant to go public. This was to stay in our public, stay in our community. It wasn't meant to be shared. However, counter publics were purposely, like directly engaging against opposing discourses. So these were these people forming their public network and deciding we're gonna fight, like speak up and oppose areas where we think are injustices. Then there's satellite publics. She likes to use the term oscillating publics, which is what I like to use it as. This comes from Catherine Squires. And this was where they were to remain invisible until it was time to be visible, time to become that counter public. So this is kind of what Black Twitter was, that early network public. It was an oscillating public. We were private. These were people, discussing Black culture, discussing any form of pop culture, but with, their Black perspective. And then when the social injustice happened, then they decided, no, we will speak out, we will engage, and this will no longer be private. Thank you for listening to my brief overview of Sarah Florini's Beyond Hashtags. This was just covering chapter 1 and chapter 2. Please go read that, as well as Crystal Abanide's From Network Publics to Refracted Publics, and go to MC 4326 to watch our full social media live show over those topics. Thank you.